That's right, ladies and gents. If there's a sequel, big if, Ezra Miller will return as the Flash. This is what Andy Muschietti says, the director of the Flash. Just as an FYI, he doesn't get any say in this at all. This is them trying to save face and trying to get people to watch the film. That's what it is. Because, make no mistake, Ezra Miller is a massive, massive issue for Warner Brothers Discovery and DC at the moment. You know, he's a PR nightmare. And this film might be really good. I've heard very good things about this film from sources. They love it. They thought it was a really good, fun film, which corresponds directly to, you know, everything else that's been said. But the amount of money they've spent on this film, it will seriously struggle to justify a sequel. It will struggle at the box office. And I don't think it's, you know, I think it will absolutely do good numbers on paper, but those numbers won't necessarily be good by comparison to the budget. I mean, you're looking at like $300 million for this film. Easily. And so when you're doing that, plus you paid a hell of a lot of money for a Super Bowl ad spot, and just some basic research, those Super Bowl ad spots for like 10 seconds are in the millions. And they did a feature-length trailer at the Super Bowl. So very, 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 very expensive. Plus all the marketing push that they've been doing now. I think it will struggle. But this, much like any statement from James Gunn and anyone else to do with DC, this is them trying to save face and trying to save the film in terms of, you know, being a financial failure. Now, this film, I mean, you're looking at $1 billion plus to justify a sequel and getting Ezra Miller back with him being such a volatile character. And what I mean by that is, I mean, recently he was in, in court in Hawaii multiple times for assaults and stuff like this. There's grooming charges against him. There's quite a lot going against this chap. So just from a PR perspective, he's a bit of a nightmare. So this has to make serious cash flow to justify a sequel. And I just can't see it doing that. So this is them trying to save that. They've been very, very tight-lipped on whether Ezra Miller will continue or not. And it's very much, well, you know, if it makes money. So we will see. So let's take a look at what, you know, the Flash director Andy Muschietti says. And I don't blame him, by the way. I don't blame anyone trying to save this movie. Of course not. It's their job. They've got money riding on it. And, you know, no one sets out to make a bad movie. Everyone sets out to make a movie that they think is going to be good and will make money. And for all intents and purposes, this is supposedly a pretty decent movie. So, The Flash is set to race into theatres in just over 2 weeks, which is crazy to think now. It's getting... I mean, this film's been in the can for a really long time. Really, like years. It's been in the can for years. So, quite crazy. Now, there's early reactions to The Flash have been very positive. The movie has been mired in controversy thanks to Ezra Miller. So, yeah, quite a lot, you know, very serious, very despicable allegations. He has also appeared in court. These are not allegations, they're, you know, pretty much clear cut. And then lots of people are like, just replace him. You know, the great movie to replace him, perfect, it makes sense with the law. Why would you not do it? But the director, Andy Muschietti, again, to save face and save this film, save people's interest in this film, because I think a lot of people are not interested in watching DC movies at the moment because they know they're not going anywhere and they're going to be rebooted. So there's less of an interest in being invested. But he says this: if a sequel happens, yes, to Miller coming back. I don't think there's anyone else that can play that character as well as he did. The other depictions of the character are great, but this particular vision of the character, he just excelled in doing it. And as you said, the two Barrys, it feels like a character that was made for him. And that does actually, this isn't me, you know, like, you guys know my opinion on Ezra Miller. I think he's an absolute see you next Tuesday, right? I don't like him at all. I think he's a volatile, disgusting individual. But this aligns with what I've heard about this film, which is actually what makes it so good, is him. So I'm not blowing smoke up anyone's arse because I don't like Ezra Miller by any stretch of the imagination, by any metric. But what I have heard about this film is that this is a good film and he is the reason behind it. These two characters that he plays is the reason why it's so good. So it aligns with that. But again, make no mistake, it is them trying to save face. And then Barbara Machete chimes in and says, in principal photography, Ezra was brilliant and the most committed and the most professional actor. And I love this last part because it cracks me up. Ezra gave everything for this role, physically, creatively, emotionally, mentally. And he was absolutely supreme. I mean, that's basically, you read between the lines, you know, basically had a mental breakdown. So he definitely gave everything in that respect. Very, very funny. And then there's this. This statement is absolutely just, who cares whether this is true or not? It doesn't really make any sense. The Flash star, Sasha Calle, who plays Supergirl, spoke to Henry Cavill. He's watched the movie and he loved it. When did he get to watch it? Because none of this makes any goddamn sense. Tom Cruise apparently loved the film, but the only way he managed to watch this film, right, was after speaking to David Zaslav about some projects. David Zaslav was talking about the film. Tom Cruise expressed interest in watching it. So David Zaslav sent a courier round, a studio hand, with the film to Tom Cruise's house. This is the story. And apparently this studio hand just stood there and waited until he'd finished the film and then took the film back. When did that did not happen for Henry Cavill? When would he have watched it? There's been so many bloody reshoots. He's been shooting films. He's been busy. When would that scenario have been available to Henry Cavill, a chap that lives in London? Right? His main abode is in London. So, yeah, funny. I don't believe this for any stretch of the imagination, but it's them trying to save face. There was a recent press conference for The Flash, and Supergirl actress reportedly told journalists, and this is what doesn't make any sense, that she spoke to Justice League star Henry Cavill and Supergirl lead Melissa Benoist to ask for their advice. Advice on what? Because the film has been done for a very long time. What would and apparently Henry Cavill claimed that he loved the movie. Well, when? Because the film's been done, so what were you asking advice on? That doesn't make any goddamn sense. And when would he have watched it? If it were like, what version? What? No, absolute nonsense. This is just a case of them trying to save the movie, trying to push it because, this stuff's come out recently. And recently it came out that this film's projected to do $70 million opening domestic, which is a terrible opener for this film. Like, that's actually really, really bad. $70 million domestic. Oof, big oof. So, yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts. This is just them trying to save face. But, hey, drop your thoughts down below. Cheers, guys. Take care.